Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Erica, and today we're going to talk about my top 10 reads of 2022. Okay, so I'm in my living room because all my kids are home and the baby is napping, so I'm wanting to go to a place that she wouldn't hear me talk. But anyways, I thought it would be really difficult for me to narrow down my top 10 reads of the year, but actually it was way easier than I thought. In my top 3, I knew right away what they would be and in what order they would be. So I've read 106 books so far this year. There's like 3 days left of the year, so I think I'll get to 107. And I'm going to share with you my favorite 10 of the whole year. So this is exciting. Been thinking about it for a couple weeks. And yeah, let's get started, I guess. So these are going to be in order. Originally, I wasn't going to put them in order, but they just kind of fell that way and it was easy to think about. So let's get started with my number 10 read, which is Blindside by Candy Steiner. So this is a sports romance and it follows Clay and Gianna. Gianna is kind of like the PR person for the college football team, and Clay is a really good football player on that football team. And Clay just got broken up with by his high school sweetheart, and he's really upset, and he's been giving some really bad interviews. So Gianna has to go and talk to him about this and get him back on track with his interviews. And they meet in a coffee shop, and while they're there, Clay notices that Gianna can't keep her eyes off of a guitar player in the coffee shop. So Clay strikes up a deal with her that they should fake date so that this guy will notice Gianna, because anyone that dates Clay would get noticed. So this guy would notice Gianna, and so Clay can make his ex-girlfriend jealous. And it turns into lessons of seduction as well, and it's fake dating, and it's just so good. There's a lot of tension in it. Fake dating is one of my favorite tropes. Lessons of seduction is one of my favorite tropes. And I really just loved this one. I think this is my favorite Candy Steiner book to date. And yeah, it's definitely a favorite of the year. Gianna's also a virgin. Clay reads her romance books because she loves romance books to try to figure out what she likes. And it's just a really, really good read. And it sticks out to me as one of my favorite books of the year. The next book I have is actually not a romance book. It's a cozy mystery, and that is Finley, Donovan is Killing It. I did not expect to love this book as much as I loved it. It was just so much fun and so funny without being corny. So this is about Finley Donovan. She's a single mom. She is also an author. So she goes to meet her publicist at like Panera or something, or is it her editor? She goes to meet somebody at a coffee shop, and she's like pitching her next book to them, and she writes like thriller crime books. So someone behind her thinks that she is a hitman. So they drop her this note in her bag and offer her a ton of money to kill her husband, and Finley is like, what the hell? But also she really needs the money. So this book, like I said, was just so much fun, and I read the second one too, and I really loved that one. I can't wait for the third one to come out. And then Finley has a nanny who turns into like her best friend / sidekick, and their dynamic is just so funny. And yeah, this is a really good one, especially if you want to do something a little bit different than romance, but you don't like gory thriller or really kind of like scary thrillers. This is like just a cozy, fun mystery. So I'd give it a try. It's definitely my number 9 spot for sure. The next book I have is one that I can't stop talking about, and that is Daughter of No Worlds by Chrissa Broadbent. This is the first book in the War of Lost Hearts. I always mix that up in my head, but the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. I'm currently reading the second one right now, but this first one is just so good. It gets pitched to people a lot as being similar to Throne of Glass. I don't know, because I've only read the first one, so I can't really make that comparison. They are both slaves though in the beginning of the book, so that is one comparison. But this is just so good. It's a slow burn romance for sure, but I love Tasana's character. I love Max's character. This book also has some really good side characters that I really love. I feel like the world building is really well done while also being very digestible and easy to understand. I always get nervous with fantasy romance books, even though I love them, that like I'm not going to understand the world. But in this one, like I had no issues at all. And yeah, I just really love this one. It sticks out in my mind for sure, and I kind of sparked a love for fantasy romance in me again. Next, which is my 7th book, one that I think is going to be on so many people's favorites of the year, and if you haven't guessed it, it's Heartless by Elsie Silver. This book is so good. It is so good. So this is about Cade and Willa, and Cade is in charge of his family's ranch, and he is grumpy single dad. And then we have Willa, who is, she's not really sunshine, but she's kind of just like sassy and doesn't let anyone walk all over her, and she's just like, I don't know, I love her character. I don't know how to explain it. She's not really sunshine though. She's just sassy and knows what she wants, and I really loved her. And then, so Cade is a little bit older than Willa. Cade is looking for a nanny. And Summer, our heroine from Flawless, she tells Cade that her best friend Willa is going to come be the nanny. And they have a really funny meet cute. And after that, Cade is like, this girl is not being my nanny. But he ends up letting her be. And Willa really wins him over. And it's just so good. The tension that Elsie Silver can build in a book is like no other. And this book is just so good. And I think, like I said, everyone knows it. Everyone's read it. And if you have read it, you understand. But this book, definitely one of my favorite romances of the year. And Elsie Silver is definitely an author that I'm going to continue picking up her stuff because I just know she knows how to write. So that's Heartless. I loved it. And yeah. Next, we have a book that I don't think everyone really loves, but I loved it. This book gave me such like 5-star feelings when I was reading it because of the chemistry between the two characters and the banter between the two characters, and that is A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So this was my first Elizabeth O'Rourke book. I've read her second Deal with the Devil book. What is that called? Devil in the Deep Blue Sea? Yeah, I read that one, and I thought that one was good, but not as good. A Deal with the Devil is about this girl who goes to be assistant for a plastic surgeon. Her friend was originally his assistant, but he is adopting a baby, I think. And so he's taking paternity leave. So I can't remember her main character's name, but she goes to be his assistant, and she already doesn't like him. He's known to be a playboy and has a reputation of being like a womanizer. So she already like has a bad impression of him and doesn't like him, but she goes to work for him because she needs the money. It's kind of like an enemies to lover situation, and it's just so good. Like I said, the banter between these two characters was so funny and amazing. I got 5-star feelings from this book like within the first 15%, and I just knew that I was gonna love the book, and I really did. I want to reread it soon because like the banter, I think, is some of the best banter I've ever read in a book between two characters. So definitely one of my favorites of the year. If you haven't given it a try, definitely you should. And Elizabeth O'Rourke is somebody that I'm definitely going to be diving into their backlist in 2023. So that's A Deal with the Devil. The next book is one that I just finished recently, and that is Binding 13. Really, Binding 13 and Keeping 13 count them as one, I think, because this book leaves off on a cliffhanger, and you really need the second book to get like the full picture of the story. So I would say the first and the second book, like combined as one, are my number 5 spot. It follows Shannon, who has like a terrible home life. This book has a lot of triggers, like please look them up before you go into it. But Shannon has a really terrible home life, and to top it off, she also gets really bullied at school. So she switches to a new school, which is Tommen. And when she gets there, she, like, on her first or second day, gets hit in the head with a rugby ball by our hero, Johnny. And he doesn't mean to hit her in the head, but she immediately thinks, and her mom immediately thinks, that she's getting bullied again. But it turns out it was a complete accident. And ever since that happened, Johnny cannot get Shannon out of his head. He feels really bad about it and also feels this need to protect her. And Johnny goes through a lot in this book too, but Shannon goes through so much in this book, and it's really hard to read about at times, but the whole story is just really beautiful. And these characters are in high school, so it's not like a steamy book, but their romance is so sweet and so genuine, and I feel like it was done just really well. Chloe Walsh, I think, is a genius, and Saving Six is the third book in Boys of Tommen, and it follows Shannon's brother, Joey the Hurler, if you know, and I cannot wait for his book. That's like one of my most anticipated books of the year, because I think it's going to be so good. But yeah, if you haven't read these, they are chunky books. Each one's like, I don't know, 600, 700 pages, but the story is so worth it in the end. These characters, you just feel for them so much, and yeah, it's hard to read, but it's an amazing story. So this one will be one of my favorites for the rest of my life. I know it will be. I love this book, and the second one, Keeping 13. Next, we have one that I am not surprised is made in my top 10 because I love this author, and that is The Words by Ashley Jade. I read her Royal Hearts Academy like back when they came out and was obsessed with them. They were some of my favorite reads of when I read them. So I was not surprised that I love The Words. This book is another giant book. I think I really like long books. But anyways, The Words is about Phoenix and Lennon. And Phoenix kind of, again, has a really crappy home life. And Lennon is being raised by her dad. And they go to high school together. And Lennon is plus size and gets bullied a lot. And Phoenix is kind of like the hot guy on campus that everyone wants, or at school that everyone wants. And Phoenix ends up needing a tutor, so Lennon tutors him, and they kind of grow this friendship together. And it turns into a little bit more than a friendship, but then something really bad happens that tears them apart, and Lennon hates Phoenix guts after this happens. And so we flash forward to Phoenix being this big star musician, and he's really not doing good though. He's like into drugs. He's having a really hard time. So his manager goes and finds Lennon and asks her to please come on tour with them and keep Phoenix in line, because they know that Lennon won't sleep with him because she hates him, and she'll make sure that he doesn't do what he's not supposed to do, because everyone before her has like caved to him. So she needs the money, and she goes even though she really hates him, and it's really like a full-on enemies situation, and then it turns into more. And this book is just so good. It's pretty emotional. It's really long. It's super angsty, which I love. And if this book wasn't so long, I would have already reread it, because I think about it all the time. The duet following the side characters in this book comes out in January, and I'm so excited. Those are going to be really long too. So yeah, I love this book. It's, again, going to be a favorite of all time, and it's just so good. Next is one that I really didn't expect to love, again, and that is A Dowry of Blood. And this is like a Dracula reimagining. I listened to it on audio, and I don't own a physical copy, but I'm going to get a physical copy because I want to reread it really bad. But anyways, it's a reimagining of Dracula, and it kind of follows, it outlines the abuse that Dracula put our main character through, and it's told in a series of letters to him. And the writing style of this is super interesting and really engaging and like gothic, and it's just really atmospheric, and I freaking love this book. Stories about abuse, I don't want to say I like them, but like domestic abuse, I really relate to those stories, because I had my own situation with domestic abuse back when I was like in my really early 20s, like 19, 20, 21. So I really relate to those stories. It was just told so well, and I loved it. And like I said, it's really atmospheric. It's not very long, so it's categorized as a horror book. There are a little bit of like gory scenes, I guess, with like sucking blood because they're vampires, but it's really not like a horror, what I picture to be a horror book at all. I want everyone to read this book because I just loved it so much and it took me by surprise. So that's my number 3 book for 2022. My number 2 book is a book that took everyone by storm and it's also on like a lot of people's lists, and that is Magnolia Parts by Jessa Hastings. If you don't know what this is about, it's about our 2 characters, BJ and Magnolia. They used to be together, but BJ cheated on Magnolia. That's not a spoiler. It's like right in the beginning. And so they've been broken up ever since, and they kind of have this toxic, codependent relationship going on, and they're constantly hurting each other, and it's messy and it's angsty, and it's just so good. I like am shocked how much I loved this book. I don't necessarily think it's for everyone. I think a lot of people might not actually like it because it doesn't have an HEA at the end, but it's just really good. I love angst, so this was like the perfect book for me, and BJ is my newest and forever book boyfriend. Lastly, we have another story about domestic abuse, and this book spoke to me in so many ways, more than just that way, but like I related to this book so much. It ends with us. I didn't read this until the beginning of this year, and it blew me away. I did not know what this was about before I went into it, which is okay with me, and it made it like hit that much harder, but I also feel like it should be talked about what it's about because for some people that's a huge trigger. So yes, it's about domestic violence, and this book I think will forever be my favorite book from now on, and I'm going to reread it this year and probably every year because like I said, it just spoke to me in like so many different ways, and I've never connected or loved a book as much as I love this book. So I definitely, this will be one of my favorite books of all time. I think it is my favorite book of all time now, and I'm going to reread it and we'll solidify that, but it blew me away. I don't even have the words to tell you how much I loved this book, but it 120% is my number 1 book of this year, and I constantly think about it, and just the things that are said in this book are so realistic to what that situation is like, and yeah, it's a masterpiece in my opinion. So that is my top 10 books of 2022. I can't wait to read all the books in 2023 and come back next year and talk about my favorite books of next year, but that is going to be all for me. Let me know what your favorite book of the year was, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.